Welcome back to my class. In your last class, we have learned about sources of food. So today we'll be discussing about food habits of animals. Okay, food habits of animals. So here we are going to see food habits, meaning we animals. Animals eating habits are different from different groups of animals. So uh, basically we animals cannot prepare our own food, so we depend on plants. So even though we may not eat plants directly, for example like grass, but we eat the plants indirectly. It may not be directly sometimes, but we eat it indirectly. So animals depend on plants for their food. So we are going to see here different group of animals and their eating habits, or let's say food habits. First one is herbivores. So herbivorous animals are those animals that eat plants. For examples, buffaloes, cows, deers and horses. So these animals, they eat plants. Other than plants, they do not eat like meat or other things. They only eat plants. So what is saying here? They have sharp cutting teeth in front and flat grinding teeth at the back. Grinding teeth at the back. So the front teeth is for cutting, okay, for cutting. For example, like if deer eats grass or something, so they will cut it. Their front teeth is meant for the to cut it, okay, the plants. And then in the plait, they have plait teeth, that is at the back, that is for grinding plants. Okay, so here you can see the pictures of buffalo. He is eating plants, and the next we have is deer. He's also eating grass. So these are the herbivorous animals, and they feed on plants. So now another type of or say group of animals, that is carnivorous. So what are carnivorous? These are the animals which eat the place of other animals. Okay. So examples are lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, snakes, eagles and vulture. So let's see the characteristics of this carnivorous. So they have long, sharp teeth, and the birds have strong and pointed beaks to tear the flesh. Okay. So now we'll see snakes have small teeth. So some of you must be wondering, then how do they eat the food? How do they eat the flesh of other organisms? So basically the teeth, that's snakes, they have a very small teeth, so it only helps to swallow the organisms, okay, smaller organisms than them. Okay, so here you can see a type of carnivorous animals, the lion. So lion is eating flesh of other organisms. So here you can see that he is eating the place of other organisms. And here, as you have learned here, they have a long sharp teeth, isn't it? You can see here. Okay. So this is how the carnivorous animals are. Okay, now we'll see another type of, or say group of animals called omnivorous. Sorry. Animals that eat both plants and animals are called omnivorous. Okay. So examples are humans. We are also omnivorous. We eat both, plants and animals. And bears, crows, and cockroaches. So they are the examples of omnivorous. Okay. So scavengers. So now what are those scavengers again? So some carnivores and omnivores are known as scavengers. We already studied what are carnivores, what are omnivores, isn't it? So some, not all, some of those organisms, some of those group of animals like carnivores and omnivores are also group, another group of organisms. So they are known, another group, so they are all known as scavengers. Okay. some of carnivores and omnivores. They are again grouped into one particular group. Again, they are called scavengers. Let's see what is scavengers. Okay, so this scavengers, this type of animals, they consumes dead bodies of animals. Imagine, they are consuming not the living or not the fresh one, they are eating dead bodies of animals. So that's why, since they are very unique in their eating habits, even though they might be carnivores or omnivores, they are grouped again in the scavengers. They eat dead bodies of animals. So examples of these scavengers are, let's see, these are crows, jackals, hyenas and vulture. So they are scavengers. Okay. So here, see the picture here, bear. You know this is bear, right? So they falls in omnivores, meaning they eat both plants and animals. Okay. So here again, scavengers. You can see this. What is this? What is the name of this animals? Vulture, isn't it? Is it vulture? Yes. So they also eat dead body of animal. Okay. Now another group of animals, they are called parasitic animals, or say parasites. Let's see what are the parasites animals. Okay. Who are called parasites? So here, parasites are those animals that depend on other animals for food. What it said here? Animals that depend on other animals for food. Okay. They cannot stand by themselves, or say they cannot prepare their own food. They totally depend on other animals. Okay, so examples are here: mosquitoes, fleas, leeches and bugs. You know, mosquitoes is a very common thing, isn't it? So they used to bite, isn't it, in our skin. They used to suck blood, and then that's how they used to survive, isn't it? So they depend totally on other animals. So do you think that mosquitoes are having teeth? What do you say? No, they really don't have the teeth. So what they do? They have, it has a long sharp pipe instead of teeth. You can see here, right here. That is what we are talking here. They have sharp five instead of teeth. Instead of like teeth, like we have teeth, right? They don't have that, but instead they have the long five, like this. They have the long sharp five instead of teeth. They from true how they used to, what they used to do. They used to pierce the skin, isn't it? They used to pierce the skin and suck the blood. That's what he said. Pierce the skin and suck the blood. Okay. So let's see the other one. Some parasites live inside the bodies of animals and they eat the food after it has been digested by the animals. So what it says, some of the parasites, some of the parasites animals, for example, tapeworm, roundworm, isn't it? For example, you have in your textbook also it's given tapeworm, roundworm and hookworm. They live inside the body of an organisms, and what they used to do, they used to eat the food. They used to eat the food after it has been digested by the animals. So for example, let's say dog likes to eat bone, isn't it? Mostly bone. So after the dog will eat the bones, it will get digested, isn't it? And then those kind of parasitic animals, they live inside the body of dog. Okay, inside the dog. Let's say even in humans. Okay, tapeworms, they usually live inside the body system of even in humans. So like few such kind of parasites, they, for example, I'm saying about dogs. So when they eat bones and the bones will get digested inside the body of dog, so such type of parasitic animals will absorb the eat. They will eat the digested food particles. Okay. the digested food particles of the animals. Okay, so they used to digest that thing, and they totally depend on that particular animals. So they're depending on dog, because for example, as I'm saying that by taking the example of dog, the dog has eaten the bones, and that bones which has been digested by the dog by after eating the bones, so those parasitic animals will eat that digested food particles. Okay, so here for example in mosquitoes you have seen that how they depend on other organisms, isn't it? A mosquito sucking blood. Okay. Okay. Now we'll study something called food chain. The name itself is signifies that food and chain. Chain means one after another and its joins, right? Chains are not made only of one single, like say, particle. So basically chain it is. A chain is made by joining like one particle, one thing to another. Like for example, as I saw you that suppose this is one particle and then this is one particle. So if I join here, there will be something and then only it will join, no? Like chain. As of now, this is not chain. Something makes it to go one after another. Okay. Now we are going to see something called food chain. Okay. Very different. That is food chain. So the food basically what is food chain? Here it is saying that the chain of events is called food sense. The chain happening of something, events, okay? Chain of events, one after another. Something is happening one after another. So the chain of events is called food chain. Okay. So how each living things gets its food. Food chain basically is about how one living organisms or how one living things gets its food. How do they get it? Okay. And this food chain also resembles about interdependence of various organisms. So it is the interdependence, matlab one depend on other organisms and these organisms also depend to another organisms. It's like interdependence of various organisms, not only one two type. It is about different kinds of organisms. They are dependence, one organism is depending to someone. For example, frog is dependent to grasshopper and the grasshopper is dependent on plants, something like this. Okay, so I'll explain you what the food chain really is. So here you can see here it is a food chain. Okay, what is food chain? We'll see practically. So for example, the first thing you have seen here, these are the plants. These are what? These are plants. So these plants is eaten by this grasshopper. Okay, and this grasshopper is eaten by frog, and this frog is eaten by a snake, and this snake is again eaten by an eagle. So you can see the events happening here right from here. The first event here is plants. This plants is eaten by grasshopper, and from grasshopper to frog, and frog to events. You can see the chain like happening one after another. It's going like a chain. So that's why it is called as food chain. Okay. The chain of events is called food chain. The food habits, how the food is, it's been like how the food is going like a chain, like one after another. From plants, the first one is obviously plants. From plants, plants has been transferred, the food is transferred to grasshopper, and grasshopper is also eaten grass. So this directly or indirectly, the very primary source of food is this is the plants, and how this food, the main source, and how the food has been transferred from one organisms to different organisms. Okay. Okay, now we know what food chain is, like how the food is being, how the events of taking food, how it goes like chain wise, from one organisms to different organisms. So now we'll see that food chain in grassland. What are the food chain? It happens in the grassland. Okay, I'll show you. So what happens in the grassland, and we also see what a food chain in a pond. How does the food chain happens? How the food is transferred from one organism to another. Okay, we'll see first in grassland. So in grassland, what is the first food source here is food is grass. Grass is eaten by the zebra, and the zebra is eaten by the lion. So this is how the food chain happens in grassland. And the next one is food chain in a pond. Let's see what the first part is. Algae. You know what is algae? These are the small plants. Okay, small plants, especially in ponds, you can see that green, like green on the surface of the pond. You can see that plants, very small, tiny plants. Small plants, these are eaten by fish. Do you know that fish, they eat algae? Okay, so fish, they eat algae. And who eats this algae? These are eaten by small fish, not big fish, mind it. This is algae, small plants are eaten by small fish. And now what happens? So this large fish, they eat the small fish. The chain goes like this. The food chain goes like this. Algae, it's been eaten by small fish, and small fish is eaten by the large fish. So this is how the food chain occurs in the in a fawn. So basically, overall, this is how the food chain happens. Thank you, students, for your kind attentions, and also I want you to study very well for your upcoming test. Study this chapter, that is food sources. Okay, right from the beginning till the end, the whole chapter is included in this test. Thank you and bye bye.